Hello and welcome to On the Other Hoof. The Aintree Grand National meeting is getting underway tomorrow with its first of 3 days. It's a competitive Betfred Bowl with Silviniaco Conti refacing Hollywell from their Gold Cup exploits at Cheltenham. We also have a very competitive Aintree Hurdle, which has 2 champion hurdle winners in it in the terms of Jezki and Rock on Ruby. Also, this year's second in the champion hurdle, Arctic Fire, is also running. We are going through the card tonight with a whole panel of 4. Adam Webb, Michael Andrews and Callum Medell. The shock is because Michael Andrews is here once more.
I only turn up for the big occasions.
Day 1 of Aintree.
Yeah.
Adam's face
there. Waiting to see Adam's face in the
well, we'll start with Adam. I imagine, Adam, you're very excited. You've created this thing called Aintree Fever that isn't a thing, but you're claiming it's a thing.
Well, Michael agreed with me when I said it the other day. He was like, "Yeah, well, it's a time of the year when people, the city of Liverpool, get most excited. It's when their bigger incomes up in here, and I'm very excited for it. I always am for Aintree. I'm as excited for Aintree as I am for Cheltenham. 2 completely different meetings. They both have their different vibes about it. I mean, Cheltenham's more serious, Aintree's more relaxed, and it's like last year for the first time I went for all 3 days, and you felt it on the Thursday, just how laid back it was. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it again.
Okay, right, we'll go with that then. Are you looking forward to it, Callum?
Yeah.
Yeah, Callum's looking forward to the Craven. Yeah, I don't mind Aintree. It's a bit of a hangover, to be perfectly honest. But we have a good meeting lined up tomorrow. I will be also trying to annoy Adam with as many derogatory points about Aintree as possible throughout this video. But as always, you can get in touch with us here at On the Other Hoof. Our Twitter tag is @OnTheOtherHoof. You can send in any question or fancy you may have about any of the racing over the next 3 days at Aintree, and we will answer it at the end of the video. We're going to start off tomorrow, though. Tomorrow's analysis with the 250, the 140. I had a shocker.
250.
I clicked on the Betfred Bowl just to check that it was still the Betfred Bowl. The 140 at Aintree, which is the One Magnificent City joke. Manifesto Novices Chase is a grade 1 over 2.5 miles. Adam, I want to put to you this one first, because this is the most Aintree race that you could imagine, with novice chasers stepping up in trip, either trying to avoid undersow or realising they're probably not going to cut the ice at the top grade over 2 miles.
I'd agree with that to an extent. They're probably here to avoid undersow. And the front 2 in the market, well, Joss's Hill's favourite. I can't have Joss's Hill. He doesn't jump well enough. Even in the Arkle when they went an end-to-end gallop, it's probably the best he's jumped to an extent, but he was still here, there and everywhere at his fences. I really don't like the way he jumps. My real concern for him tomorrow is, where is the pace going to come from? And he needs an end-to-end gallop, and he's not going to get it. So, and if he's thinking too much at his fences, he's got no chance tomorrow. He'll probably run well, but I don't see him winning. Vibrato Valta, I do think is here because they're avoiding undersow. And 2.5, I think he'll get 2.5, but I see him more of a speedier type that wants 2. Of the others, I like Clarkham actually. He was given an odd ride in the Arkle. I thought they rode him to finish second, but they could have ridden him closer. And Ruby Walsh, I think, is a really good book. And obviously Brian Cooper's banned for Aintree because of the amount of whip bands he got at Cheltenham. I think he's the one to beat. I think Valdelaw is overpriced though at 25s. He was going to give Southfield Theatre a race at Exeter when he came down at the last, and he was beaten last time out by Cash and Go. But I think those 2, they've missed Cheltenham and they could be interesting. Cash and Go has obviously been revitalised by a change of stable from Nicky Henderson to Venetia Williams. He could run well. Good to see Liam Treadwell have a decent ride, and also in the Grand National as well. He's picked up his second ride in the race at long last. But I think Clarkham is the one to beat, and I'll be firmly against Joss's Hill.
I think you have just said everything I disagree with, just exempting Valdelaw. I think Joss's Hill will benefit from stepping up to 2.5 miles. I think Vibrato Valtat will. And I don't think Clarkham's got a hope in hell of getting 2.5 miles.
I think you will. I think you'll get 2.5.
Get it, but not improve.
Yeah, I don't think at this grade. I really don't think he's a 2.5 miler at all. I think he's the one mainly that's trying to avoid Underso.
I think all of them are. I think all of them are, and it could. Wouldn't it be hilarious? I said to you before. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Willie Mullins decides not to run Underso, and it leaves it to Traffic Fluid and Solar Impulse?
Amazing. People love Traffic Fluid. Personally, I don't think Vibrato Valtat's got any problems with the distance. Paul Nicholls said all year, even after the Henry VIII victory, that he'll be much better once he goes up in trip. But I think it was found out in the Arkle against the proper horse. He hasn't really, well, up until then, he hadn't really run against anything that was top class. So I think he's worth a chance at 2.5 miles. I think he probably will improve for it. Whether I think he's going to win tomorrow, I'm not 100% sure. Michael, are you in the same camp that Clarkham will improve up to 2.5 miles, or are you against that?
I'm more in the camp that can we get onto the handicap yet, to be quite frank. This isn't the most enticing of races. There's not a lot of value. I do think Justice Hill is going to win. I'm not a fan of Vibrator Valtat, as everyone knows. Clarkham at 7-1, not enough value, I don't think. I don't think he's going to reverse the form with the two that finished ahead of him, despite the extra 4 furlongs. I think Valdalore at 25-1, if you can get him at that price, is probably worth an each-way bet. But for me, I think Justice Hill should win it, and I'd like him to win it, but I'm quite happy to move on to the next races.
Yeah, it's a tricky race to get through. I think it's, as we said at the start of the show, it's very much an Aintree race. I don't think Justice Hill's jumping's good enough. I don't think Vibrato Valtat's jumping is anything special. Warwick, he went through the top of a few.
We had an argument about this. I thought he jumped fine.
He wasn't fussy. He got away with it because he was against Top Gamble, who was not good enough, and he's running against proper horses here. I don't think his jumping is good enough. So 2.5 miles could improve him. We'll see about that tomorrow. Clarkham, I really don't think will improve for stepping up in trip. Ruby Walsh takes the ride, foregone earlier. I'm going to put one up at a big price in Valdalore. I quite fancy him each way. He stepped down to 2 miles last time and got beaten by Cash and Go, but I think stepping back up to 2.5 is going to bring out endless improvement in him. He fell at the last at Exeter 2 runs ago. That was behind Southfield Theatre, who went on to run a very good race in the RSA at Cheltenham, and Melodic Rendezvous, who is a non-runner tomorrow, incidentally, in the Aintree Hurdle. So at 25-1, I agree with Michael that Valdalore's probably the one to be with, but it's not a huge betting race whatsoever. You have been in the past a big fan of Justice Hill. Are you following him through?
I've just read Nicky Henderson's comments about him. I think he was drunk while making this comment, because he said he jumped very well at Cheltenham, and I watched the race, and I don't think he jumped very well. No. What do you think?
No, Callum, I remember me and you were at home, and your comment mid-race was Justice Hill's jumping is hilarious. So that told me what you thought about it, and I agree.
He's just so awkward. I mean, how you can have him as favourite tomorrow, I do not understand personally. I agree with Clarkham. I'm just not convinced about him improving for 2.5. Three Kingdoms, I think, will run his race, but I think Vibrato Valtat is the classiest of the lot. I think the step up in trip will be perfect. The key for me for this course is a flat track. I think he really needs a flat track. His Warwick performance, I thought, was seriously impressive, and he's really turned a corner. They can ride him hold him up, which very much suits him because of the step up in trip. I think he's clearly the one to beat, and if you swap those prices around Justice Hill for Vibrato Valtat, I think you got it about right.
I think Vibrato Valtat's performance at Warwick was bang average, personally. I wouldn't necessarily agree that he's a flat track horse. He won at Sandown, and that's probably his most impressive performance of the season for me.
I thought his Warwick one. I thought he was visually really stunning. Yeah, I thought he was very impressive at Warwick.
I thought he beat absolutely nothing that day.
Yeah, it was just I mean, he didn't even turn a hair. He just won so impressively.
Not sure I agree with that, but a race that we might all agree on. We've got a short price favourite in the second, the 2:15. It's the Betfred Anniversary 4-year-old juvenile hurdle. Grade 1 over 2 miles and 1 furlong. Now Hargam comes here and seems a very, very warm order, Michael. He's third in the Triumph hurdle last time out, but the return to better ground could just see a bit more improvement in him.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I remember this when he ran in that the Triumph Hurdle trial behind Golden Doyen. I looked at the race and I thought, this is not a very good race, with the exception of Hargam, and I thought if Hargam doesn't win, this is going to be disappointing. But I think the ground had a factor in that day, and obviously proved us wrong since. So I think he's got an excellent chance. He's a bit short for me to want to really back at about, what is it, 4 to 5, 8 to 11.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be interested at that price, but I think he's got an excellent chance. He's only beaten just less than 5 lengths on soft ground behind Peace and Co. He's beat Starkitect and Karazak earlier in the year as well. And if Ryan's watching, he also beat Gardini on the flat at Longchamp. If you want to listen to that. So he's obviously going to win absolute hose up according to those statistics. At an each way price, I quite like Starkitect, who obviously been beaten by Hargam and also beaten by Peace and Co at Doncaster. Then he was only beaten 4.5 lengths by Calando in the Fred Winter last time. I think he's got a really nice chance. Ruby Walsh is quite an eye-catching booking, and Owen Maguire's not there, and Mullins hasn't really got very many runners at all, but I think he's got a decent chance at quite a big price, about 20 to 1. I think if you take out Hargam, I think the rest of them are all kind of in the mix. I'm not convinced about Bristol de May. I don't think he's got any gears whatsoever, and I think a flat track is not going to help. So I think I'd quite like to see him over Fences. All the others, I think, are all kind of around the same mark as Starkitect, and Starkitect is 20 to 1. So, yeah, I'm going to go each way Starkitect.
Yeah, I think Starkitect ran a huge race in the Fred Winter, trying to make all in such a big handicap. The ground will be absolutely fine for Starkitect as well, and as you mentioned, Ruby Walsh is a very eye-catching jockey booking. How about you then, Adam? Hargam, is he too short a price for you?
Well, he's too short a price for me to be lumping on, but I think he wins. I mean, in the Triumph, when the weather went against him, I thought if it had stayed good ground, it would have been a closer affair. And flat track on better ground is going to really help him tomorrow. I think he is the one to beat. He'll win comfortably. The one that I can see him chasing him home is that one that I never thought I'd actually put up again over hurdles, but Stars Over the Sea I thought ran a really good race in the Triumph. And when they turned for home, he was still bang there with a chance, and he's faded away, but I just think he is another that will appreciate being on a better surface. I know Devilment's in here as well, but I'd prefer Stars Over the Sea at the prices anyway. I agree with Michael on Bristol de Mai. I think that he will want fences and he'll want a trip. Well, I say a trip. I think he'll want at least 2.5 when he goes over fences, possibly 3. Of the rest, I think the Paul Nichols pair, I think they're more longer-term projects. I can see them running well, but I have Stars Over the Sea above them. And Starkitect, I remember his debut win at Bangor. Oh, the jumping in that race was atrocious. But thankfully, he's got better since. And his Fred Winter run was promising, and he could be the one that actually goes out and makes a running tomorrow. So, Hargam wins. He'll win it, but I think Stars Over the Sea, if you want to do a forecast, he could be one to throw in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Starkitect definitely is going to be one for the each way punters at around 20 to 1. It's a big price in that regard. I've just got one fairly big issue with Hargam. In looking through his form, first time in England, it wasn't softer ground, which isn't ideal for him. It was against Golden Doyen, a horse that he should be beating pretty much 10 times out of 10. He got in front that day. He was up by about half a length, and then he seemed to bottle it in the finish. So I'm really questioning his resolution in a battle. You could say when he won at Cheltenham that he battled against Karazak on the far side, but they were so far apart from each other, it wasn't a true battle. Karazak ended up finishing on the chase course, and Hargam was coming up the near side rail. So in my eyes, that's not a true battle. At Musselburgh, it was a faster race. He just absolutely bolted up beating Starkitect. And at Cheltenham last time out, he jumped the last in contention and then again faded away when it came down to a battle. I'm more than willing to put that down to the ground as an issue, but I was fairly surprised with how well he ran that day. Personally, I'm going to take Devilment, who was fourth in the Triumph Hurdle, 10 lengths behind Hargam, who never really got into the race and really wants faster ground as well. Much like Hargam here, Richard Johnson takes the ride, and I don't really see why there's that much of a disparity in prices. I think he's about 9 to 1, 10 to 1 Devilment. So on faster ground, I think he can find enough improvement to get competitive here. I think he's a fantastic each way price as well. He looks a much different horse and much superior horse on faster ground than he does on softer ground. Your thoughts? Are you with Hargam?
I did question. I was similar to you. I did question his resolution early in the season, and I didn't think he was all that special when he's running at Cheltenham. But I thought he ran an unbelievable race in the Triumph, considering the ground. wouldn't really have been in his favour, or at least he's going to improve an absolute ton for proper good jumping ground. I know he's got decent form on soft on the flat, but flat soft is different to jump soft. Hargam, he's clearly the one to beat. He's short now. I think he's way too short. He's definitely too short now at 8 to 11. He's certainly not a price I'd want to be betting. I don't think I'll even put him in a multiple anymore.
No.
Because, but bar that, I mean, Bristol Demai and Devilment. If you made me choose one out of the two, I'd go Devilment every day of the week. Devilment should improve the better ground. Again, was a horse didn't really expect much in the Triumph Hurdle, and I thought he ran a brilliant race. And the better ground on a flatter track. For a flat type like him, he's sure to suit, and it's between the two for me because the rest of them just aren't good enough. The Nichols horses, I can't have.
No. I really expected Devilman to be a shorter price than that, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, the disparity between the two, considering what there is between them, and considering you don't really know what's going to happen when they've both got optimum conditions, it is a bit crazy. And Devilman, it has to be a brilliant each way price.
Yeah. In my eyes as well.
And the forecast is what I'm going to put up because I think it's between the two.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'm not would it surprise you if Devilman beat Hargam?
No.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Devilman was good enough to beat Hargam on this ground. But Hargam definitely the one they all have to beat. The 250 is up next as the Betfred Bull, another Grade 1 over 3 miles and 1 furlong this time. We're stepping out of novice and juvenile company for the first time at the Aintree Grand National Meeting. Only 7 runners this year, Adam. It's a classy enough race, though, with Silviniaco Conti and Hollywell running. Minora also runs his race every single time in this particular contest.
Yeah, it's an interesting renewal this year. I mean, I can perfectly understand why Hollywell is favourite, and I'm going to put him up. His run in the Gold Cup, I was dumbfounded with the way he ran. I thought he ran an excellent race on ground that wouldn't have suited him as well. He was still there at the top of the hill, and when the other 3 kicked, he was still plugging on, and he was well clear of the remainder, even though he finished 4th. And I'd argue he's even run a career best in the Gold Cup. He did improve as well last year. I know he was a handicapper last year, and he went into novice company at Aintree, and he absolutely jotted up over this course and distance with his blinkers on. I think he's the one to beat here, and I don't think he's had as hard a season as Silviniaco Conti, considering the first half of the year they were just pottering around in 4-runner chases with him. Silviniaco Conti, in the Gold Cup, I do think we definitely wasn't right. I will say that. But you now look back in hindsight, was the form of the King George and the Betfair Chase actually good enough to win a Gold Cup? I know it sounds silly to say, but the way he was beaten in the Gold Cup, I know he was beaten before the trip or the hill had anything to do with it, but even then, had he been 100%, I still question would he have finished as any close to Coney et al. So I think Hollywell is definitely the one to beat tomorrow. Of the rest, I was a big fan of Smad Place. I don't think he's good enough at Grade 1 level anymore. Minora, he could run into a place, but he was disappointed in the King George. Mafia over this trip, I prefer her in the Melling as well as Ballymagor. And Bukovar's changed stables, an interesting move there. This is probably a fact-finding mission. I'm not sure whether he'll get 3 miles just yet. But Hollywell, I think it'll be a McCoy double. So Hollywell all the way for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can see that why Hollywell is favourite at the moment. I saw a tweet earlier that Betfair were offering 3-1 about Hollywell. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that because I didn't see it personally. I don't know if it's just a special offer that they're doing, but 3-1 would be a fair enough price. Obviously, Michael, AP McCoy's taken over in the saddle from Richie McClernand, who rode in the Gold Cup. Would that be any concern for you? Because Richie McClernand does seem to get the best out of Hollywell.
It's a fair point. Richie McClernand's pretty much had the retainer on Hollywell since. Well, no, that's not fair. But in a lot of his good races, when you consider Cheltenham, obviously Richie McClernand ridden him, but AP McCoy did ride him last year at this meeting. In fact, not this race, but the novices race on the same day. So I don't really think you can discount that. And AP McCoy's won on him twice. The only time he's been beaten in recent times is, in fact, both times he's been beaten on AP McCoy's when Manny Clowers won the race, which is interesting. And my clicker's just disappeared. That's great. Everyone knows my story of Hollywell. If he's wearing blinkers, he's going to run ridiculously well. and that has pretty much never been beaten. He's been fourth in the Gold Cup when he wore blinkers. He beat Fentara at Kelso. I think they were decided that they need to stop messing around with him now and just check he is okay before Cheltenham 2 starts ago. Then he won at Cheltenham and he won at Aintree. The season before he won at Cheltenham and then he was second to Solwit in the Liverpool hurdle. So his strike record in blinkers is amazing, and the only thing I can see is Minora on really good ground, back to best, having a break is perhaps the only fly in the AP McCoy ointment, and I think Holywell could have a little battle on his hand there. I'm not thinking about Silvianarco Conti, very classy horse, but perhaps had his season, and I think Holywell is still he's had a much quieter season. He's still got the advance on that one. Minora again though has been quiet since December, and I can't see any others being good enough. So for me, it'd be Holywell versus Minora. That will be the contest. And Minora at 10-1 is a massive price actually. Now I've just looked at that.
It's gone.
He's 8 now.
Okay, it's price wise.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He was much bigger earlier. He was 12s and 14s
He's
earlier.
pressed, wasn't he?
I don't think so. No, he's not. No. I get I completely get the point with Minora. I've backed him each way in this race. I think the last 2 or 3 years. I think you have as well.
Yeah. I'm not doing it again.
No, it's. I watched back the King George the other day, and he makes a really bad mistake. Like
Yes,
4
it
out.
was a
The last in the back straight, and that's his race
shuddering
done.
mistake, wasn't
That's
it?
completely gone. He was running a really good race up until that point, so I'd be more than willing to forgive that. He's coming in fresh off a break of 104 days, so I can see each way. I can see Minora going well, but I'm completely with Adam and Michael. Holywell is definitely the one they've got to beat. I can see there being a real switch around at the head of the 3-mile chasing division right now. I think potentially Silvianarco Conti could have been the best of a modest bunch. You look back through it, he's beating a fair amount of non-stayers really, in the likes of Dinast and Q-Card. Alfroth can also be thrown into the mix on that front as well. You look back at his Cheltenham Gold Cup run, was it really that dissimilar from last year? It wasn't really, was it?
It was definitely worse.
It was worse, but the horses were around him that were the same ones that were around him last year with the likes.
But I think it's a fair point to make. There were such different races, and that this renewal of the Gold Cup
was a proper Gold Cup,
furiously run and with better horses than the year before. So if he'd come in running the year before last, like if it was Lord Windermere's Gold Cup this year and he was coming into that sort of form, it'd be a bit different.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
I cannot have Silvianarco Conti tomorrow whatsoever. I did say that last year, however.
Is he a place lay?
I did say last year that he was the place lay of the year. Not going to say that again. Not going to say that again, Mike. But I do think this is between Holywell and Minora. But I'm not going to say it's the place lay of the year on Silvianarco Conti. I'd almost be surprised if Holywell's not winning this tour. I think he's going to be one of the main protagonists in the 3-mile chasing division next season, and hopefully for seasons to come as well. Are you going to make it a clean sweep for Holywell?
No.
He's going for Silvianarco Conti, guys.
I don't know. I want to be different. Holywell, I still think will have to improve if Silvianarco Conti's on form. I know, Silvianarco Conti can crab his form. I still don't think he's the strongest of stayers, and that's blatantly why he doesn't handle Cheltenham, but he doesn't stay that trip anyway. And he has been beating horses that aren't the strongest of stayers. But Holywell still thinks he's got to find plenty to beat him if he's on form. So I have no reason to think why Sickbag can't run a big race tomorrow because he's got his ground. Well, he goes on any ground, but he likes good ground. The flat track is obviously ideal. He won the race last year. He looked all over his problems before the Cheltenham Gold Cup. He didn't run his race. He clearly wasn't right. I just can't see. I can't go let 3-1 go and miss or not tip him up at least at 3-1 when Holywell has £10 to find on official ratings, and I think that is very fair. I just can't. I can't see it. I can't have Minora either. He just has the tendency to to jump one dreadfully, and that's his race gone.
You know this is going to be the year he wins it.
Oh,
Right?
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. Maffior, I don't like. I don't like the rest. So
4-1, Maffior.
She's becoming a bit of a hype horse. Do you not think?
I think she's
all this emphasis that she comes into her own in the spring. She hasn't really shown enough to suggest it.
I think she's a non-stayer, and I think that she's a bridle horse as well.
Right.
When has she found anything off the bridle?
Topham.
Right.
Topham, yeah.
She found off the bridle. I think she finds off the bridle. I just think she bumps into one each time. That's all it is.
Yeah, she's just not good enough. In fact, like she was rated 162 when she.
Okay, I backed her at Kempton over fences in her novice career, and she was off a mark of about 135, something like that.
She's different horse now.
No, but she was asked to go and win a race after travelling into it very, very easily, and she won it by a head or something very short.
She made it look difficult. I know. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's the kind of horse that she is. She travels very strongly each time. You remember behind Sam Winner earlier on this season, she finished last of 3 to finish.
To be fair, I think that was a really good ride from Nick Schofield because he knew with the amount.
I'm not saying that. Matthew Yule was travelling all over Sam Winner.
That price is shocking.
It's an awful price for Matthew Yule at 4.
I will say she's an absolute joy to watch over a fence. I think her jumping is her asset, but I don't think she'll be good enough. But you'll enjoy watching. She'll travel well, but I think Holywell
will get outpointed when it matters. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go for Sick Bag just over Holywell. But it's an interesting race, isn't it? It's a good race.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think Conti will go out from the front and will be tough to pass. If Holywell wins and Conti's on form, then fair play to Holywell.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting race to watch, probably one of the more intriguing ones of the afternoon. Moving on to possibly the race of the afternoon, probably the race of the afternoon as well. Yeah, 3:25 at Aintree. The Doombar Aintree Hurdle, a Grade 1 over 2.5 miles. Now here we have 2 champion hurdle winners lining up with Jeski and Rock on Ruby. Melodic Rendezvous is a non-runner as well. Arctic Fire was second in the champion hurdle behind Faheen this season. It's a race completely full of class, but a couple of horses here stepping into the unknown in Arctic Fire and Jeski stepping up to 2.5 miles. Rock on Ruby missed Cheltenham, and this is seemingly now his sole target of the year.
I think, well, I wouldn't say Jeski's stepping into the unknown because he has won over 2.5 before, but I could see, you can see why he's saying step into the unknown. They've now taken the hood off him, and in a race where it could turn very tactical, could he be? I think the hood now he doesn't need it, so I think he'll be okay. Arctic Fire, I don't think he wants 2.5 miles. I think he wants a really strongly run 2 miles. And whilst I am of the opinion he was the second best horse in the champion hurdle, I still think he was flattered. I mean, off a stronger gallop, how much further does Faheen win by? And I think he wins by a lot further.
Yeah.
Getting a gallop from another horse. I mean, Faheen, Ruby just did the right thing, set his own tempo, and he had to quicken when he did, and he did. So Arctic Fire, I don't think wants 2.5. I mean, round Aintree, he could easily get the trip, but I just think he's a 2-miler. And all these people saying that, oh, he'll be great in a world hurdle. No, not really. In the county hurdle, you could argue that he actually didn't stay on the new course, and the old course at Cheltenham was always going to suit him more than the new course. So I have stamina doubts about him. Jeski, the jury's out now. I thought in the champion hurdle he was really disappointed. I expected more from him. Then again, I expected more from the new one, but excuses obviously came out about him, and that's why he's not here. It leaves me with Rock on Ruby. I think he is the one to beat, and it was a shame that he missed Cheltenham, but with the way the world hurdle was run, and I know Cole Harden won, and people would be saying that if Rock on Ruby had ran to his form, he'd have beaten him. I'm still not convinced he's an out-and-out 3-miler. I know he's never run over the trip, but I just think 2.5 for him is absolutely perfect. And I think he's the one to beat. Of the other 3, I think Blue Heron could run a really big race here. He's missed Cheltenham. This has been the target. And he won the elite. He won the Kingwell, beg your pardon, at Wincanton, when Harry Skelton with some brilliant race riding against Nick Schofield and Irving, who, well, Irving's not exactly proven very much this season, but Blue Heron, I think, will appreciate the second trip and the better ground. And if Jetski and Arctic Fire don't run their races, I can see Blue Heron chasing Rock and Ruby home. Just as one more point, it's a shame Hurricane Fly's not here. because I would have loved to have seen him in this race, and I probably would have put him up actually, because 2.5 round Aintree would be perfect for him. The Nicky Henderson pair I don't think are good enough. Bannister, that's a hype horse for you. He's promised so much, but not exactly delivered that much. Volney de Tay, he seems to be a bit of a hype horse. I know he ran well in the Coral Cup, but I think he's at his ceiling over hurdles anyway. And I can see him running well, but not being good enough. I think Rock and Ruby wins.
Yeah, we'll stick with Volney de Tay actually, because you were saying to me off air that you fancied Volney de Tay to run a big race, didn't you?
I think he ran a good race. Yeah, I thought he ran well behind Rock on Ruby at Cheltenham. But the better ground would be better. I thought he ran an absolute belter in the Coral Cup. He got hampered. He ran off 1:58, then he got beaten 6 lengths by Au Petit Swan. That's an absolutely cracking run. He's well worth his place in this field, I think. If it was an eight places, 3 places, eight runner field, then I'd be all over him each way. 2 places makes it harder, but shall I talk about the rest? Or?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Great. One I'm totally against jet ski for a lot of reasons. I don't think he'll necessarily improve it to 2.5, even though he has won over 2.5. I fully recognise that. He stays it, no doubt. But he's a free-going type. McCoy instead of Geraghty is a big no-no for me, because I still think his best performance has been under Geraghty, who gave him such a brilliant ride in that champion hurdle. The Hood, I don't see why that's coming off.
No, I don't.
For a horse that is quite keen. And I thought he ran poorly in the champion hurdle. There was no excuses at all. All this rubbish about him chasing Fahim at the wrong point and Arctic Fire picking up the pieces. They went a crawl. They went really slow for champion hurdle pace. And I think Arctic Fire has not been given the credit he deserves for that run. If that was jet ski making that run,
a point. I don't think Arctic Fire has been given the credit all season.
No, he hasn't.
He's run some huge races.
You remember Willie Mullins said, "Do not forget Arctic Fire in the champion hurdle," and he was right.
Yeah, he's
properly right.
I remember saying to Luke after Christmas, I quite fancy Arctic Fire for the champion hurdle at 33. Do you know what he said to me? Next. Move on. Forget it.
In fairness, I generally disagree with everything you say as a rule.
Yeah, I actually thought you were actually telling the truth there, and you telling me he wasn't good enough. And then after his run again, I thought, actually, he's decent. But it turns out I was right, so put me off anyway. Cheers, mate.
The trip for Arctic Fire. What else can he show to suggest that he's going to stay 2.5 miles? He's staying on so well in a champion hurdle, over 2 miles. He's a horse that they think could be a Melbourne Cup horse. You're going to have to stay for like a proper 2-mile gallop in a flat race. You're going to have to be able to stay 2.5 miles in a jumps race. I think he's the one to beat tomorrow, to be perfectly honest. I think he's just improving so much. And I think he could just be better than this lot. Rock and Ruby, I'm sure, run his race. And I'm sure he'll be banging there. Went very close in it last year. He's arguably probably better now. He's really come back to his best really recently. So I expect a really good run for him, even though the setback isn't ideal. So I think he'll chase him home. They're the 1-2 for me. But jet ski well against, and I think Volney de Tay outrun his odds and he'll be a value loser.
Yeah. You came back in and you were all over Volney de Tay until I pointed out that there was only 2 places and he'd have to beat one of Arctic Fire, Jesky or Rock and Ruby to get any sort of return.
Yeah, that's tough ask.
That's a big ask.
Lovely chasing next year though.
Yeah, I think that's what his career is going to be revolved around Benham Fences. Personally, I'm completely with you, Callum, about Jesky. I'm completely against him over 2.5 miles. I can't see. I'd be surprised if he won this, if I'm being honest. I thought they'd wait for Punchestown with Jesky and go there again, but if they're thinking about doing that again, then and they're still taking this in. Fahim goes there as well, but
you wouldn't want to run against him, would you? You'd probably have a better chance here of winning.
Yeah, well, yeah, of winning, yes, but
they clearly seem to. It's the kind of thing, when a champion hurdle horse just gets it wins, and then it gets to a stage where it's not good enough, and they go, "Oh, I need to step up and trip."
Yeah.
Every time. The new one is in that horrible stage at this. And now Hurricane Fly was in that stage. I mean, the amount of people crying out for him to be in the World Hurdle this year was crazy.
Yeah, I think, in fairness to Rock on Ruby, him going up in trip. I think that was always going to be the case. I think he just got an outrageously good ride.
Yeah,
from
no,
Alpini when he won
I
that.
agree with that. I agree with that.
I don't think he was ever really a champion hurdle horse. I just think that they did very, very well.
No, you're compromising your chance of your horse just so you can potentially win when you can place in these races. There's no harm in placing in a champion hurdle, but it's all about winning.
Yeah, well, I mean, with regards to Jezki, for finishing second tomorrow, you get 42,500. Finishing third, you get 21,000. So it's fair enough prize money going down. But as I said, completely against Jezki tomorrow. Arctic Fire, I can completely understand his favourite. He's had a really consistent season. He hasn't run a bad race all season. He was in brilliant form at Cheltenham. I just think that Rock on Ruby over 2.5 miles, this is the perfect race for him. I backed him in the race last year when he almost beat the new one, who probably wasn't at his best that day. But over 2.5 miles on really good ground at Aintree, I think that will play to every single strength that Rock on Ruby has. He looks as if he'll be able to make the pace or sit behind Blue Heron if Blue Heron wants to go forward when stepping up in trip. But I can't really fault Rock on Ruby in any way other than he missed Cheltenham through a little injury, and if that's still causing any lasting effects, then he may underperform for some reason. But other than that, I really can't fault Rock on Ruby tomorrow whatsoever. I think Arctic Fire is his danger, but I really do fancy Rock on Ruby tomorrow. I think he's got a huge chance, and in my mind should be winning this after missing Cheltenham. Michael, you're the only one left to talk about the Aintree hurdle. Me and Callum have dismissed Jezki. Adam gave him a chance. Where are you falling on the ex-champion hurdle winner?
No, I've never really been a fan, especially when he thwarted my tent or yours last year. Maybe I did a bit of a hate campaign about him. No, I wouldn't quite say that far, but I've never really been a fan, and I'm quite happy not being a fan here as well, so I'll join that boat. Arctic Fire is going to be the fly in the ointment, I think, for Rock on Ruby, who I think should win this. Obviously beat Cole Harden over today's distance. At Cheltenham, I think he's been a really good horse this year. Miss Cheltenham, comes here fresh. Don't think there's many negatives, really. I think he's got a serious chance. A horse, I know Callum gave Volney today a good mention. I think possibly follows a quite similar pattern to Diakali, who was only beaten a very short distance in this race last year. He carried top weight in the county hurdle last year, and Volney today carried top weight in the whole cup this year. So I think there's, they both ran well. They were both beaten 5th or 6th in both races. So I think that you could join perhaps a line between those two. But again, I understand with only 2 places, there's that slight problem. And I think I had the same problem with Diakali last year, who I was very much willing to back each way, but just missed out by a very, very small margin. Arctic Fire, I personally think if he's a Melbourne Cup horse, he shouldn't be winning this. If you're winning over 2 miles 4 in Europe, you can stay about 4 miles in Melbourne, to be quite honest. So I think that's a strange move for them to go here. Maybe they're just also trying to avoid 14. So I think if he wins this, he doesn't win in Melbourne. But we'll see. I'd like to see how many years he has on good ground on a flat track. That'd be interesting to know. But for me, I'm going to stick with Rock on Ruby. I think it's quite a big price, at about 3 to 1. Of all Volney, if only there was 3 places.
I was going to say when was the last time Ruby Walsh actually rode Arctic Fire, but it was when behind Little King Robin at the start of the season. So I thought it was further back than that, but I was wrong in that respect. Next up is the 405 at Aintree. It's our first chance to get a look at the national fences in use for the Aintree Grand National Meeting. The Crabbies Fox Hunters chase over 2 miles, 5 furlongs, and an extra 110 yards. 30 runners going to post, Adam. I imagine you're going to be particularly excited about this, and we have some fairly strong horses at the head of the market with the Cheltenham Fox Hunters winner On the Fringe heading it. Patrick Dupolder also lining up for Paul Nicholls and Will Biddick. Warren, last year's winner, also lines up. It's a strong renewal of the Fox Hunters this year.
I'd agree with them sentiments, definitely. I would actually argue this is a stronger Fox Hunters than Cheltenham's, because there's so many at the top of the market. I mean, some of these were former rules horses who would perform really well in handicaps and graded races, and they've lost their way a bit, and they've been revitalised by hunter chasing. I do think it's between the top 2 in the market, though. I think On the Fringe, the amount of times I've said he won't get up the hill at Cheltenham, and I said it again this year, and lo and behold, he goes and wins by 17 lengths. It was an unbelievable performance, and I have been wanting him to run in this race for a good 3 or 4 years now, and I finally get my wish. And I think he is the one to beat, but I want to side with Warren again because last year's performance was just so impressive. I mean, Sam Whaley-Cohen over these fences, you can back him blind effectively, and you'd still probably be in profit. I have to work that out, but I wouldn't be surprised if you backed him on every ride over these fences, you'd be in profit. I mean, he's had big prize winners over these fences. I mean, Oscar Time in the Beach Chase in December being one of them, and he rides him in the National on Saturday. He won his point to point last time out, so he's obviously shown a fair bit of form, and he will come back here. He loves these fences, which is a slight doubt you can have about on the fringe, but I wouldn't have a doubt personally. I mean, you see fences, and apparently it's a negative that they've never raced over them. What a load of nonsense that is. You'll see it in the Grand Nationals. I read a stats guide, and it said it's a negative if you've not been over the fences. And I'm like, what? How can that be a negative? Rant over. Pasha the Polder I can't have. I think the big field won't convenience him, and he has raced over these fences before, and he jumped okay, but I just wasn't exactly completely convinced by him. Big Fella Fanks, I think, will travel well. He'll come to the elbow and he won't find anything off the bridle, and that is just him as a horse. He did it on trials day in January. He just stopped up the hill and Anacossi went past. I can't have Twirling Magnet. I don't think he jumps well enough, and he fell at the first in last year's Nationals, so I could strike him off the list. I think last time Dalban will run a good race. He was third in the top 2 years ago. Unseated, he was unlucky to unseat in the National last year at Beeches. A couple of others. Current event, I think the trip's too short. Okidinayak will go for mid. One at a big price, and you may look at me funny here, but one at 40 to 1 I put up for this right out now. And last time out at Ludlow, I've never seen anything like it. He jumped the last 20 lengths clear and he stopped. I don't know what on earth happened that day, but the way he jumped, I thought of him as an Aintree Fox Hunters type, and with this bigger field, he'll win in this, as he was second in an Irish National a couple of years ago behind Lion Barney. Jumping's no problem, and I think at 40 to 1 is a really good each way bet. I will actually suggest the reverse forecast with Warren and Offbeat, but if you want an each way bet, I think Out Now at 40s could represent a bit of value.
That's Out Now at 40s, yeah?
Yes, Out Now at 40s, yeah.
There, your internet at this end cracked up a bit, so we just confirmed that with you because we don't want to miss out on laughing at you when it just does nothing.
Yeah, well, if you want to be wonder why I'm putting him up, but
Michael, I imagine this is more of a kind of race that you're going to enjoy, with ones at bigger prices that you can back each way. That's more your way of betting, isn't it?
Yeah, my internet's really bad.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I agree with Adam. I think it's a bit unfair. I've just read the time form comment, and it's like it was temperamental. I don't think he was temperamental. He just thought he'd finish the race, and the jockey wasn't giving him enough to suggest that he hasn't. And he just decided, oh, well, there's nothing around. He was, 20 lengths clear? I think he just thought, it does happen. Horses have done that before. I don't think it was actually temperament. And I think 40 to 1, he wouldn't be 40 to 1 if he'd won that race. He'd be somewhere around 20, perhaps. I think he's got a decent chance in that respect. I agree, this is actually quite a decent race. I thought it was going to be naff like last year when there was 2 horses, and I backed Earth Dream at 40 to 1 and he finished 4th, so that was alright.
After timing.
Warren. Yeah, just putting that out there, just in case you didn't know. I'm a great each-way tipster. Warren, I think, definitely is going to lead them a merry dance in front, and you've obviously got On the Fringe who's going to put it up to them as well. On the Fringe, though, on the ground, really didn't get up the hill at Cheltenham.
Fine, I think.
He didn't. He hasn't suggested a great amount of form recently on good ground. A lot of his runs have been on soft ground this year. When he was beaten at Cheltenham,
in May on Kids Are Yielding and won by 20 lengths.
Yeah, but what was that against? One horse is one stint. In comparison to
the 11 Grand Hunter Chase, so it must have been okay. It was the Champion Hunters Chase, and he beat Warren by 21.5 lengths.
you look at the rest of them, I've never heard of any of them. In fact, only 6 finished. So I think you could say one was perhaps not at his best that day. As one is on good ground at Cheltenham last year, he got beat 5 lengths by Tammy's Hill. Didn't come up the hill half as well as he did on soft ground at Cheltenham this year. So I think there's that perhaps weakness that you could suggest. And he also just might not like the fences. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to find flaws when there perhaps aren't even flaws. But for me, I think last time Dalbane has got a really good chance, who sits just outside the kind of top couple, at about 10 to 1, 11 to 1. He was third in the top 2 years ago in 2013 behind Triolo Delen, or Trelololo Delen as Adam calls him. He obviously went on to win the Hennessy the year after, well, the same year, the season after, and then he unseated his rider in last year's Grand National. He has experience over the distance, over the fences. I think he's got a really good chance. He's been in form this year. He's won a couple of times this year, twice his last 2 starts. Sits about 10 to 1. That's still an each way price, and I think go for it. Warren, I suppose when you look at it after what he did last year, that's the one you've got to worry about. But I think last time Dalbane would be actually quite a decent selection at what is a rare decent price in what is normally a 2-horse race in the Aintree Fox Hunters. But I agree with Adam without now at a massive price. A lot of the others, I think the race has got too much depth for big priced horses to actually place this year.
I don't agree with you at all about on the fringe, on the ground. I couldn't agree with you less on that. I think something going against Warren, and this is going to sound idiotic, is his performance last year. Because it was brilliant last year, but he's not going to be allowed to do the same thing again. Because Sam Whaley-Cohen went 15 lengths clear on him, and they didn't touch him since, thinking that he's going to come back to the field. This is a much better field than it was last year, with the likes of Patrick Boulder, Big Fella Thanks on the fringe, and last time Dalban. Warren won't be allowed a soft lead this time, and even if he is, there's very good horses in behind that are going to come out and try and catch him, whereas opposed to last year, we had the likes of Mossy Joe in, who's done nothing since, really, other than attract a big price tag before the race.
Remember going into the race that Mossy Joe was this 151 rated beast, and he was in race. So it was a weird race last year.
Your internet sucked then. On the fringe, I have no problems with on the fringe over the fence. I think on the whole, he's a very, very good jumper. Adam's gone. I think that was by design. But on the whole, he's a very good jumper. You take his jump at the last, touch a twig on it. So I can't see the fences posing any threat whatsoever. As for the distance, I'm sure a few people would probably have a couple of problems with that because he's been racing predominantly over staying trips. For me, I think the last 3 times before he actually won the Fox Hunters at Cheltenham, he didn't get up the hill. He didn't stay that strongly. This year was a completely different story, probably because it was the first time I didn't back him in the race. But I don't have him down as the strongest of stayers, despite him ripping apart a good Fox Hunters at Cheltenham last time out. But over effectively 2-6, it'll be a strongly run race, so stamina will be needed. I think this will be the absolute perfect race for on the fringe. Nina Carberry rides, which is never a negative in this sphere, even amongst professionals. But he's short considering the kind of race it is. But 4 to 1, I think he's a decent enough price in that. I think you're with on the fringe as well, aren't you?
I think he wins. I can't find a negative, to be honest. The ground looks fine.
For you. Do you want proof? This is his record on soft heavy. First fell, first, second, first, and his record on good to soft or better is 1-4-3-2-3-1, including when he
was.
Okay, right.
His fourth at Cheltenham is when he blatantly didn't stay in the Fox Hunters for some reason. His third was when he'd beaten 5 lengths in the Fox Hunters and blatantly didn't stay. He then smashed up in the Champion Hunter Chase at Punchestown by 20 lengths, and he was second on yielding ground to Prunster Beauchesne. I mean, there's just no proof to me. He's also won a valuable Hunter Chase, and good. That was the Champion Hunter Chase again. There's just no proof to me at all. that he's better on. He just goes on anything, doesn't he?
No, I have no problems about the ground whatsoever. Plus, it's going to be very fresh ground as well. I think that'll.
I think it's perfect.
I think, I honestly think the ground is going to be absolutely fine for him tomorrow. But
in fairness, the national course is actually softer, isn't it, than the other ground?
yeah, but
but
it's going to be
soft. Good to soft tomorrow.
It's going to be. Yeah, okay.
4-1.
I don't know what's going to beat him. I don't know what he's going to get him beat.
No.
Because he's the class horse in the race. He comes here off a career best, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, that performance was unbelievable.
Well, the last 2 career bests, because being second to Prince Devotion is absolutely no disgrace.
That's a cracking run.
Yeah.
Better than ever. Jumps really well. I mean, I think he made one slight mistake in the Fox Hunters, but bar that, he jumped ridiculously well.
It's one thing we're talking about him being a non-stayer. At this trip, he's going to be a very strong stayer. Warren will try and enforce it's a good gallop.
2.5.5.
I think
it's perfect trip.
I think it's going to play right into on the fringes.
I'm starting to convince this is one of the bets of the century. Let's talk about the others. Big fella, I'm sure he'll go well. He loves it around here. I expect him to run a decent race. Warren, I think, will need better what he did last year to win this year, because I think it's a much better race. Patch of the Polder is the highest on official ratings, but that's should be open to debate, I think. I'm sure he'll go well, but I mean, I think his only try here was when he was stuffed in the Topham in 2013. I don't know, Adam knows if he's run else any other time.
100 lanes. Yeah.
Yeah, he got absolutely stuffed in it. The rest, they're surprise winners, but you never know with this race. Something always pops up. I wouldn't completely disagree with Adams at a massive price. Tartan Snow at 15, that'd be great.
I'd love Douglas Julian to run a big race. He's an old favourite of mine. He's been in as good a form as ever the last twice, after not really finding his feet in 100 chases before that. But at a big price, I'd love to see Douglas Julian go well. I'm not really holding out much hope for it, though.
Yeah, it's Toiling Magnet couldn't really have over this trip on the ground. Fell in the National last year. On the fringe, it's going in multiples for me.
Yeah, if you forgive Current Events run at Cheltenham on ground probably softer than ideal, then I think Current Event could be given a chance at 16s if you really need an each way alternative. He came into the race.
He needs every yard of 3 miles.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
I mean, I'm looking at his Grand Sefton run. I mean, he's probably not well handicapped, but he's not run well enough. The ground was probably wrong for him anyway, wasn't it?
I think on better ground, he's a much better horse. If you're looking for something to maybe sneak third, then Current Event could be that horse.
We won't have 8s in the Fox Hunter. He's double that price tomorrow, so I can understand that.
Yeah, I think 16s is a fair enough price. About Current Event, we'll move on to the next race, though the second last on the card, the 440 is the Betfred Red Rom Handicap Chase, a Grade 3, over 2 miles. Adam, I'm going to start with you because you've got a strong fancy in this. That actually won it last year. He's been seemingly saved for the race as well.
Yep, I couldn't believe he was 16-1 at lunchtime when the original prices came out, and he's called Parsnip Pete. He then he unseated at Punchestown, but then he started his season at Aintree in October, and the performance he put up then off top weight was really impressive, and he went up a fair bit for that. But since then, he's been running at Sandown, he's been running at other tracks where he doesn't play to his strengths, and he hasn't been running well. And then last time out over hurdles at Newbury, he showed promise. He wasn't exactly, I mean, he was beaten quite a fair way in the end, but he showed enough promise to suggest that he's still in good heart with himself. He's 2 from 2 at the track. I don't understand why he's such a big price. I mean, the way he won over course and distance in October, I was really impressed. I thought he needed the run as well, so I was really surprised he won. And I think he'll be here at 100%. And it's a strange race. I mean, you've got Ned Buntline and Next Sensation from the Grand Annual, and for our tipping competition at Cheltenham, Callum, I felt so sorry for you when Next Sensation won, because he was napped by Luke, and Luke hadn't been anywhere near the front until the final race of the whole meeting. Good performance and a good ride from Tom Scudamore, considering he clattered an early fence. Now, when he did that, I actually then thought Richard Johnson sort of did the right thing in letting him have his head, because he actually did slow it up, and then he obviously got swallowed up and battled back last year. But I'm not sure about him doubling up. I think he probably did have a hard enough race on soft ground. I mean, better ground will help next sensation, but I don't know. Ned Buntline, he didn't jump well enough. I know he was badly hampered at the top of the hill when the carnage happened around him, but he'll appreciate better ground. But his jumping is something on a flatter track I'm quite worried about. There's not really anything else I'd really want to put up. I mean, they did give Karinga Dancer a squeak in the Grand Annual, but he came out on account of the ground. So the flat track here should suit, but he needs to jump, and I'm not willing to risk him around Aintree. I'd have preferred him in the Grand Annual, but Parsnip Pete is the only selection, and I think he is the one to beat at that price as well.
Yeah, that's fair. You've been on about Parsnip Pete for a while now, haven't you, for this race, actually?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've had him in mind for quite some time. So.
I am devastated about this race because I've got two fancies for the race. Now, I've used them in the same race. This will be the third time this season I've tipped both of them up as a win and each way proposition for the same race. I think once at Ascot, once in the Grand Annual, and once here. So the third time in Next Sensation, I think, is your winner. He's got £8 for that Grand Annual win, but you watch it, nothing could even get close to him in the Grand Annual.
For him, really. I'm shocked.
Did he win in the
That's
Grand Annual?
sarcasm, viewers.
Did he win in the Grand Annual?
He did win the Grand Annual.
Absolutely made a mockery of a good handicap. Exactly.
Mockery.
He's got £8 for that. I think the main thing about Next Sensation is that he's learned to settle now in his races. As Adam said, he made a horrendous mistake at the fourth fence. Other than that, he jumped pretty well on the whole. Nothing as exuberant as it was the year before when going a million miles an hour. But Tom Scudamore gave him a brilliant ride, quickened, turning for home, and nothing was ever really going to catch him. In what looks to be a fairly up-to-scratch Grand Annual, I think going up £8 won't really be enough to stop him against horses that he's already beaten in the Grand Annual and ran against last season as well. Claret Cloak is one that you can throw into the mix, but I'm really questioning his attitude. I don't think he's really putting it all in these days. Sean Bowen taking £5 off. He's running better than anyone in the weighing room at the moment. Sean Bowen's getting trebles absolutely everywhere. Royal Regatta jumping isn't good enough with Royal Regatta. Was caught 11 days ago at Ascot by
An ace.
That's the one. Thank you.
What a ride.
I think he's due to go up £4 in the future as well, so he's potentially well handicapped Royal Regatta, but he did have a very hard race that day. The one I'm going to put up each way is Belenos for Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton. He was about 25 to 1 when I looked earlier, but price-wise put him up, he's about 16s now. 18 to 1 best price, which is devastating. Every time I tip Belenos up, it rains heavily overnight, and that's his chance gone. He just doesn't really go on soft ground. I'm praying that no rain comes tonight. There's none in the forecast, but that hasn't stopped it in the past. It just seems that whenever I tip up Belenos, the ground goes against him, even if nobody predicts that. He's a very strong travelling horse. He's got blinkers on for the first time tomorrow as well, which I don't really see that he needs, but it's fair enough that they're trying it on him for the first time. For mark of 135, I'm still adamant that he's a much, much better horse than that mark, and I think is a very, very attractive each-way proposition. Ned Buntline as well, I mentioned him quickly. I don't think, again, he's the easiest to win with. He's had plenty of chances that he just hasn't taken, and as we were talking earlier, I think the biggest price he's gone off in his career is 6 to 1. Which he's 7 to 1 now for tomorrow. He's always very, very over bet, and he probably will be tomorrow with AP McCoy inside.
Yeah, he's just got no resolution at all about it. He's just going to be too short again. I don't see why he's going to win that tomorrow. Next Sensation, I fully expect he should be running a big race. The first ever horse in history to benefit from a change of front-running rider from somebody else to Tom Scudamore, who's the worst front-running rider in the weighing room. But yeah, it was a really good performance, and the ground should benefit him more than it did.
It's so nice to hear you say that about Next Sensation.
No, I've never been against the horse. I just find it funny that it winds you up.
You've been against me. There we go. So.
Yeah, and I'm still hacked off that I lost the Naps competition. Stupid horse. It's just pathetic. Raw Regatta doesn't convince me. This whole race, I think, just has badly handicapped horses everywhere. Like, there's nothing I think is £10 clear of their rating. Belenos obviously had that wind up, didn't he, before Cheltenham, and the ground went wrong for him at Cheltenham, so you could probably excuse that. So at a price you could see him running well. but I still think he needs like somewhere career best. Parsnip Pete's just been looked totally out of form lately. I know he's been plotted out for this race. I get the angle, but he won this off what, £10 lower last year, was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really have him. Ted Vilden, ideally want it a bit softer. I know he goes and everything, but I see.
Plus, why would he reverse that Grand Annual form with
exactly. You say that he was probably plotted out for that race the whole season, and he hasn't run his race in it.
I have him down as a good ground horse, Ted Beale, actually. I've always had him down as a good ground horse, yeah. I think the rain... I remember in the Grand Annual, you could actually go through the ground. That's why I think he got away with it. But by the time we got to the Grand Annual, it was just... I don't think he liked the ground. But
I remember when he won the County Hurdle, it was really, really fast ground that day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, they could swim through it. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
You could go through it in the county. In the Grand Annual, you couldn't really go through it. So, yeah.
I'm going to go on an absolute flyer here. His horse hasn't been over fences for quite a while, but I think he could just have been plotted up for this race. It's called Darwin's Fox for Henry de Bromhead.
You're getting no reaction from me on that.
Yeah, like I said, he ran no sort of race when he was last seen over fences, but he's in good form over hurdles and on the flat. And I think it's just really interesting that they're running here. He just could be really well handicapped now going back over fences. He interests me more than most. Around 16-1, I just don't. There must be a reason why he's here.
It's weird that in a race where Parsnip Pete has so blatantly been laid out for this race, that there's one that's been plotted even more for this race.
Yeah, I mean,
it
must be a plot. He could just potentially be very well handicapped for me. Yeah, he interests me around 16th, and for what it's worth, he's top of time form ratings as well. So yeah.
Who's bottom of the time form ratings?
Belanos is right down there, and Parsnip Pete just follows him.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Belanos is bottom. So.
Well, I disagree with time form, so.
Actually, Definite Dreams bottom, but Belanos and then Parsnip Pete.
Oh, who's top?
Darwin Spots with Astrakhan, Raw Regatta.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Come on, Darwin.
That's a nonsense. Michael, handicaps. It's our first chance to talk about a handicap. Go.
Yeah, shall I just go through every single runner?
No.
But I don't know. I think it's kind of a bit boring actually. This race, we kind of know a lot about most of the horses.
You're the most miserable guy.
Yeah, well, it's true. Well, you've spoken. You've said pretty much anything. You've had like half an hour on this race, and I've just been sat here just waiting, just like, oh no, can't talk about that anymore.
Can we up to the next race, please? Come on.
Yeah.
I quite like the two that both of you like. I think Next Sensation's a good horse. He could run well, and I think I can completely understand the angle with Parsnip Pete as well. I'm not really very interested in this race, to be quite honest. And the horse that at quite a big price and could be absolutely thrown here, who I think is well handicapped on his best form, is Baby Mix off 10 stone 8, who hasn't run for 474 days, but obviously has some Baby Mix.
Oh, Baby Mix. Okay, sorry. Your internet cut off a bit.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, Baby Mix for Gavin Sheehan and the Greater X Yard. Hasn't run for goodness knows how many days, 474. But actually has some really good form. Definitely good enough. He was only 11 lengths beaten by Boulder Sousse at Warwick in 2013 when off a 134-day layoff. And he's ran some decent races before. He beat Turnover Sivilla, although, Turnover Sivilla, also known as second or third horse, never won, so it's not difficult to beat that horse. And then was disappointing behind Easter Day on his last start in 2013. December 2013. I think if he's prepped for this as at his best, I think he could definitely win it. But it's just if that is actually what he's prepared for, or this is a target. This is just if he's going to need the race, basically.
Yeah.
I think if he's good enough, if he's back to his best, he'll win this. But that's the main question mark. Of the others, not that interested, as I've just said, unfortunately. For a great handicap, I think they're all quite exposed.
Yes, I will say about Next Sensation, I expected him to turn up at Sandown in the Celebration Chase, where it doesn't really look as if that many are going to turn up other than Sprinter Sacra, and at the moment it seems anything can beat Sprinter Sacra. But Fair enough. We're going for the red rum. I think he'll go well in it as well. The last race on the card tomorrow is the 5:15, the Injured Jockeys Fund Handicap Hurdle, a Grade 3 handicap hurdle, over 3 miles and 110 yards. 22 runners this time, Michael, if that pleases you, sir. A very, very competitive race as well. I think the favourite is 7-1-ish, so with Call the Cops.
Yeah, this is a good race. I like this race a lot. I could talk about pretty much 20 of the 22 runners if you so wish. I could do an Adam in the
Who are the two that you can't?
The couple that I couldn't, Casterberg, I could talk about that. Join the Clan, Marinero, there'll be the 3, and Master Malt. Those would be the 4. There'll be 4 of the 18 I couldn't talk, of the 22 I couldn't talk about, so I could talk about 18 in, some decent detail. But I'll just mention the couple I quite like. I'm really annoyed that Bears Affair hasn't been dropped in the handicapper. This horse really deserves to be dropped, just so he can win a race, because he's run some grand races this year. Second behind Dawalan at the Beachy Chase meeting, and then he was 7th off top weight, beaten 9 lengths by Il Petit Swan. If you put that into context, Volney de Tay has got an okay chance, and he was beaten slightly less off the same weight, and he's going to go and contest to Grade 1, in fact. So you think this is pretty decent horse, but unfortunately, I just wish that he'd just be dropped a couple of pounds in the handicap and win a big race, because he really does deserve it. He hasn't really quite had his day in the sunshine. But once again, I think there's some better handicapped horses. All the Cops, I think, has got a great chance once again. Nicky Henderson and Andrew Tinkler. Tagliatelle as well will appreciate the step up in trip. But the horse that I'm quite liking quite a lot, who I've been drawn to, I think Ruby Walsh might have a decent day, is Apache Jack, who sits about 16-1. And you screw your face up. But he's got some decent form over hurdles. His chasing career this year has been abysmal, to say the least, really. But if you look back, he was second in a Grade 2 at Nace, and then he was 3rd behind Very Wood in the Albert Bartlett. Clearly stays the trip very well. Was beaten by just less than 10 lengths to beat that, who was actually on form at Punchestown in 2014. And then has had a pretty abysmal chasing career. However, back over hurdles, he's got a pretty decent chase hurdles mark to bounce off. Visor as well. Is that first time Visor?
Yeah,
first time Visor as well. Ruby Walsh is for the Hughes Yard. I think he just seems to be one that's kind of, you wouldn't have noticed, but could have a really good chance if he repeats his hurdles form that we had last season.
Yeah, he's definitely coming in under the radar. Is Apache Jack? Adam, your view on the Lucky Last tomorrow?
Well, I remember before the RSA saying Apache Jack had absolutely no chance in the race, and Tom Stanley, who was on the show, pulled the face because he tipped him at 25, and he then therefore after that when he ran a shocking race. All the Cops deserve to be clear favourite. I'm surprised he's only on a mark of 145, and I think he is the one to beat. But the one I'm going to put up against him is a horse I think has been crying out for 3 miles in Cat Gary, who finally got off the mark this season at Newbury over 2.5, and the step up to 3 here I think will really suit him. It was between him and Le Mercury, but Le Mercury is obviously not here, so I think Cat Gary will be the one to beat. Black Montana's interesting again, but I couldn't touch him after that running the Coral Cup with any really big prices. Not really. Condor Camper will probably run well. He likes Aintree, but Cat Gary is the one for me in a really good race.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think that's the one thing I'm going to agree with you on for this whole video, that this is a very good race. I'm really, really keen on Gordon Elliott's charge. Paul Carberry taking the ride on Tagliatelle, who warmed up for the Cheltenham Festival with a charity race when winning that. That's not really form to take too seriously, but he finished 4th in what looks to be a very good Coral Cup. Au Petit Soin won it, I think we've mentioned about 7 times in this video so far. Back in second, we had Zabana. A 3rd Activial. That form looks fairly solid to me. We've mentioned Volney de Taille as well. That could potentially be a bit of a form boost earlier on in the afternoon. But you look at the way Tagliatelle travelled through the race at Cheltenham. He travelled very strongly and then maybe got a little bit outpaced turning for home before staying on once more for 4th place. I think the step up to 3 miles is going to suit him really well here. The good ground's absolutely no worry whatsoever. He handled it perfectly at Cheltenham. I think the flatter course might also help with Tagliatelle. He's not badly handicapped whatsoever. He was off the mark of 140 at Cheltenham. He's off a mark tomorrow of 145. I still don't think that's a particularly bad handicap rating coming off the back of a very, very strong performance at Cheltenham. So Tagliatelle, the one for me, as my internet screws up. There we go. Tagliatelle is for me the most likely winner. Lac Fontana's one that a few people have been mentioning as one that could possibly return to a bit of form. He won a Grade 1. That's just enough to be a shock. He won a Grade 1 at this meeting last year. I still don't get how he did that. But
his run in the Coral Cup just dampens enthusiasm. He was on and off the bridle the whole way, and I thought Sean Bowman did really well to get him as close as he did. He never travelled, so I don't know what to make of him. He's interesting, but I wouldn't back him like I did in the Coral Cup.
No, of the rest, I just don't overly fancy anything else against Tagliatelle, if I'm perfectly honest. He's gone up £5 for that Cheltenham run as mentioned, but I don't think that would be enough to stop him tomorrow. I think around the 10-1, 8-1 marker. He's a fairly decent bet, although he is quite high in the betting. Another one that's prominent is Call the Cops. That's one that you fancy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's my only bet tomorrow at Aintree, and I backed him in the attempts. Thought he won really well, and there's value for a little bit more, to be honest. Especially considering he was coming in off a penalty. He'd had an absolute demolition job at Doncaster, but it was quite a quick turnaround, around 2 weeks 12 days for him to run then in the attempts, and he's been freshened up for this. A flat track on good ground. I think it's perfect tomorrow, and I think he's better than a mark of 145. I really do. So I think he should be much shorter. I genuinely expect him to be around 9-2. So 7-1, I think is an absolutely corking price on this horse. He's beaten a lot of these already in the attempts, and I can see him beating them even further here. Unique the Carter, Zana's Raiders in it, I think. No, it wasn't. Turagman was.
Yeah.
Regal Encore doesn't stay 3. I'm just totally convinced by that. Cat Gary, I never get these horses right that are stepping up in trip. You seem to suggest that it would suit, but I don't think he's really got the class for it at this stage. He's been a little bit of a disappointing horse for me. He's not really gone on from.
I think after Newborough,
Thornickel
said he had his problems. He's only just about got him right now. I think the ground may also be an influence on that. He said last time on softer ground he was contemplating not running him, which would say that today on better ground is a positive.
Yeah, I think the market has got it generally quite right, because the horse, I agree with you. Tagliatelle, I think, has very good claims. And Apache Jack, I can certainly see the angle of Apache Jack back over hurdles with the visor on, Ruby on board, Sandra Hughes with the Hughes yard are just in flying form. You can see the angle there, definitely around 16s. But Call the Cops is my only bet tomorrow. So yeah, I'm quite keen on him. Very keen on him, actually.
Yeah. Yes, I can completely see the angle as well. He's very impressive to me when he won the attempts. Last chance then to get your questions in and fancies for tonight at On The Other Hoof is our Twitter handle. We're going to start with them now. Tim McEwen is the first question. Thank you very much for the generous comment as well on our last video, Tim. Why is there such negativity over Conti tomorrow? Surely a flat track like Aintree, he'll reverse the form.
I went for sick bag.
He sent this 3 hours ago.
Before
the video.
Alright, okay.
I like to answer that. His last 2 runs in the Betfred Bowl for me he's not run to form both times. I know he won last year, but 2013 he had a hard race in the Gold Cup, came here and was third to first attendant. I think he's had a harder race this year in the Gold Cup than he did last year. So I think the negatives stack up more than the positives do, and for that reason, that's why I'd want to leave him. I'd also quickly like to pose the point: where's he going to go next season? Because if Conigry is going to turn up in the Betfair and the King George, I personally think he's got no chance against Conigry. So what are they going to do with him?
Conigry's going to go for the Hennessy, isn't he? Like,
he could go either way. They've not decided yet. Well,
I thought they were going to go for the Hennessy, and I can see him running in that.
I hope they're going for that.
And you wouldn't expect him to either be fit or ready, or to be honest, even run in either of them if he did. Is that was probably?
Yeah.
I was probably talking rubbish, but
Well, regarding Silvaniaco Conti, we mentioned that the King George. I think Michael's dead. Regarding the King George, you'd have to bump into Vittor. Would we be with Vittor?
Yeah.
Ahead of Conti? Yeah, I would definitely would be.
Yep, I'd agree with that. Jesus.
Yeah.
That
But there are a few reasons to be against Silvaniaco Conti. He's been beating non-stayers all this time. Hollywell definitely isn't a non-stayer. He was a Grade 1 winner in novice company at this meeting last year. So I think he's up against it tomorrow. Although for saying as much as that, it wouldn't surprise me if he won, because he's a very high-class horse. But as I mentioned earlier on, he might just be a good horse amongst modest staying chasers at the moment that might be about to change after what we saw in the Gold Cup. Kai Wills is the next question. Hargan, mortgage job, boys? No.
Let's say mortgage job.
no,
I think he
I'd
wins,
rather
but I
put my
wouldn't say
mortgage
he's a
on other
mortgage job.
horses.
Yeah,
On the level.
on the fringe is much safer.
Yeah.
I really do have a big doubt about Hargan's resolution in a battle. Not
I don't
saying
think he will need
he
to
might
get
he might
into
not need to get into a battle tomorrow, but I'd like to see Daryl Jacob on Bristol Demai try and engage him early on and try and sort of give him a bump or two, try and really make him feel as if he's in a race.
Yeah, just knock him and.
Not like that. But try and make him feel early on in the race that he is actually really in a race and he's going to have to battle for this. It might just put him off a little bit in that regard. But no, Hargan is not a mortgage job. I know from Kai Wills as well. I know Arctic Fire beat Jeski in the champion, but will it be revenge tomorrow? No. And Michael?
No.
No. Okay, 4 against none saying no for revenge in that. Kai Wills, final question from Kai Wills. Finally, the chances of Bears Affair in the last. I think Michael summed that up perfectly with Bears Affair. I don't have to read it. Lee Armstrong. I'd like a big fella, thanks. Oh. I quite fancy something in the Foxholes as well. Name escapes me. That's really informative.
Name escapes me. Yeah, it's 20-1.
That is actually a horse as well, isn't it? Name escapes me. I don't know. I think it is actually another horse. Cheers, Lee. Thanks for that. Good contribution. Mark Bettridge. 3 Kingdoms to start the day off. Great for AP McCoy in the 140. I think he's got a good chance at 3 Kingdoms, if I'm honest. I think there are too many question marks about the protagonists in the market to go in too deep on the shorter price ones. I do think 3 Kingdoms will run a decent race. I think, Adam, you're a bit of a fan of 3 Kingdoms as well, aren't you?
I'm a fan of him, but I wanted him to run in the 2 miler without undersow. That was my angle for him. I thought 2 miles around Aintree would suit him really well. So the fact that they're here, they're obviously avoiding undersow. So I'd leave him.
Yeah. KJ is up next. Does Ned Buntline have the best chance of the Grand Annual contenders back on better ground? No.
No.
I think Next Sensation's got the best chance at the Grand Annual lot for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He jumps better as well, so yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think Ned Buntline wins. He doesn't want to.
Total rogue.
PJ has come in again twice. He's firstly said, is Hargan the banker of the day / week? We've all said he's not banker material, but he'd probably be the most likely winner. Do Arctic Fire and Jeski want 2.5 miles?
Arctic Fire, yes. Jeski, no.
Yeah,
not need.
No,
but like.
I think Arctic Fire will get away with it. Jeski won't. Won't Hollywell improve for good ground as much as Conti for the track?
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that completely. Because the rain came in the Gold Cup and it was against Hollywell, so for him to run as well as he did, back on better ground here, it's rare for me to say this, but there's not many holes in Hollywell tomorrow, is there? It's
no,
not something I normally say about the horse. So.
Class.
And KJ has ended this tweet off by saying, and why are Ballinagore and Mathuriel running on Thursday, not Friday?
Good question. I've asked the trainer.
Yeah.
Well, considering the comments Nicky Henderson was making about Joss's Hill in the Arkle.
Yes, I completely agree with that, KJ. I'm afraid I can't answer that. Sam Lovell has tweeted, and thank you very much for getting in touch. Main fancies are Hargam, Hollywell, Arctic Fire, Warn, and Cat Gary. Thoughts, gents?
That's not bad, actually. So I
Yeah,
agree
it's
with
not worse
most of them.
shots. Hollywell, we all think's got a decent enough chance. Callum's against him. Hargam, we've said enough about Hargam. Arctic Fire, I think we were mostly all for. Warn, I don't think.
I was for him. I am for him, but
And Cat
Yeah.
Gary's got his chance. Got his chances. And Each Way Lucky 15 has been sent in from Phil Dinsdale. Tagliatelle, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Baby Mix, Michael agrees wholeheartedly with that. Warn, Adam agrees wholeheartedly with that. Do you want to pretend to fancy Bristol Demai?
Yeah, don't.
Oh, we were so close. That it's a fair enough bet as well, Phil. Good luck with that. Keith Nicholson has tweeted us saying they watered at Aintree. No way will it be good ground. It'll be good to soft. I think it is good to soft, isn't it?
yeah, they watered and it didn't dry out as much as it'll dry out overnight and it'll dry out tomorrow. It will continually dry through the week. So good to soft ground. It's we don't need to water, but they've got to keep the do-gooders happy. So yeah, I don't think they should water. But topic.
Mick Mayhew, or Des Walker, as we call him. Great work. Good to see the four of you in tandem. With you all, Ari, rock on Ruby, though I'm firmly a Silviniaco Conti man. Good luck. Good luck to you as well, Mick. Matt Wynn has tweeted in saying, can see it being a real favourite back as day tomorrow at Aintree. Can Luke give me back my lip gloss also? No, I can't. Matt is possibly the girliest man I've ever met in my life. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever watched Made in Chelsea. I'd hope
No.
you have.
On the tips video for everyone to see.
Like from the trailers of that, Matt would be right at home with them ponces on there. I can say this because he is a friend that I have met in person, not just a guy that tweets into the show. That would be quite harsh. Otherwise, Jeff Handley, one final tweet in. Hostile fire at Cheltenham was virtually brought down. Wears a hood tomorrow, needs to settle, but could run into a place at 33-1. Good luck with that, Jeff. It is nap time and Naughty Lucky 15 time, Michael.
Yep, I have one. It's difficult, but I've got one. We're going to go with what Adam says as soon as someone gives him a fiver. All yours.
Okay, right, okay, got it, yeah.
Second one is Vaniterd. Sorry, it's very difficult today. So Vaniterd. And then in the big one, Sergeant Dick. And in the last race, what happens if you have a Sergeant Dick? You enjoy responsibly.
I think you've stolen Vaniterd off me, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I have, but I was struggling, so I had to, lower my standards.
Yeah, I mean, I did. That is mine and copyrighted. Right, nap time. Adam.
Parsnip Pete.
Told you.
He's a big price, and I need to get my naps up. I need to get it up because it's.
You always say it like that.
I didn't mean to.
He needs to get my naps up. Then he went for I need to get it up. I'm
Sorry.
really surprised Michael missed that.
We have previous with I need to get it up. I still have that as a saved search on Twitter. Let me just.
Please don't.
Michael, a nap for tomorrow, please.
I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go Hollywell.
Your nap.
6:40 at Chelmsford.
That's my kind of joke.
Well, I've got Stetchworth at Chelmsford, which...
Is it a front runner? Yeah,
it's
Johnson. Yeah, it's Stetchworth.
My only fancy entry is Call the Cops. So I will bottle it and go for Call the Cops. But yeah, Stetchworth at Chelmsford.
We all remember what happened last time you napped away from a big meeting.
Exactly, I'm not doing that. Well, it's not a big meeting, yes, but...
No, it's not a big meeting.
No.
In relative terms,
Hey.
it's bigger than the average meeting.
It's a big meeting.
That's
Yeah.
It's a good.
Gets in the way of the crate.
Yeah, it's an all right hangover, I guess.
Mm.
It's kind of like waking up in the morning after a night of drinking, and you sort of kind of have a hangover, but you don't really. You're sort of like, oh well, it could have been a lot worse.
It's like the day after Boxing Day.
That is just.
That's the worst day. It's the worst day.
My nap, I am going to go for Rock on Ruby in the Aintree hurdle, which again is quite boring, I'm afraid. Matt Wynn has tweeted in, and one that we're going to end on. Pipe down, Luke Elder. Thank you very much, Matt. I look forward to seeing you on Made in Chelsea very shortly. Michael, we will not see you again for 2 months?
Yeah, see you at some other point in the near future. I might turn up for the Guineas, perhaps, but tomorrow night I'm coming back from Cheltenham. Coming back from Cheltenham? Coming back from Aintree, in fact. I will be at Cheltenham next week as well, if anybody wants to see me there. Yeah, so I probably won't be back in time, and Friday night I'm going to see the Wombats, so I will not be...
What's your national fancy before you go?
National fancy is $2 low at quite a big price. I've got 120s on Betfair, so fingers crossed. I think he's got a really nice chance. Follows the Pinot race from Pertemps this year and Pinot Race last year. I think Balthazar King, though. I'd love Balthazar King to win. That would be the Grand National Christmas Day, as I prefer to call it, complete.
Fair enough. Good luck with those 2 selections. We're going to be doing our Grand National preview and sweepstake tomorrow night, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, so tomorrow night on the Other Hoof, we'll be taking you through each and every one of the 40 runners in the Crabbies Grand National happening on Saturday. We also have the sweepstake. If you're entered in that, then it'll be worth tuning in to find out which horse you get. We've also got the prize through, Adam, if you want to reveal that now.
Well, I just had it in my hand, actually. David Ashcroft very kindly sent me a signed copy of his book, and I'd also like to thank John Hanley as well for helping me out as well, because he asked and said yes. So thank you to David, thank you to John, and I'm looking forward to doing a sweepstake tomorrow. I need to print the names out. I need to go and cut them all up and put them into the Scouse mug, which I said to Michael I'd use. So I'm getting use out of my Christmas present.
Yeah, I think David Ashford's one of the best journalists I've seen ever. He's absolutely superb. He's hilarious in his writing as well.
Luke actually wants to win a prize, which is great. So I'm happy I've got this prize. I hope it's as well received as the sweepstake is. I mean, I had people asking me about the sweepstake and why it was free, and I thought, no, I'd rather it be free. And yeah, I hope.
To be fair though, is it actually going to beat my prize? No.
It's a good price. It's a good price. Anyway, that is it.
Melbourne Cup one.
Okay, it's not it.
Cloudy Lemonade, empty. No one could beat that.
James Brown has still not got it. So.
There's a reason.
I'm not paying for postage.
There's a reason why we don't have Michael on too often anymore, because he talks a lot. Thank you very much. Shush. Hey, shush. There you go. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight and On the Other Hoof. We're back tomorrow night with our Grand National special. It's more than worth tuning into that. You took the winner of it last year.
Did I? No.
No, it wasn't me. Wasn't me. So we'll be hoping to find the winner once more this time around. I think we'll also be doing a Friday night preview as regular for Saturday's racing. But the Grand National preview is tomorrow night. Good luck if you're having a bet at Aintree tomorrow. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.